Dragon Quest VII Reimagined does a lovely job in presenting the world and aesthetics of Dragon Quest, and its suite of quality of life tools and shortcuts are appreciated for how they speed up the flow of the game, but it can often feel meandering and old-fashioned, in spite of itself. Dragon Quest VII follows a pair of friends, the main character, who is the son of a humble port town fisherman, and Kiefer, the princely heir to their kingdom. The two are convinced that there's more to the world than their one humble kingdom, but when the adventure begins, there actually isn't. Your island is the only landmass on the map, and the world is isolated and lonely. This is essentially a world in which the villain has already won and wiped out nearly the entire planet. As the adventure unfolds, the two are joined by more companions and begin to find magical tablets that transport them back in time, helping to right some historical wrongs or overcome an evil in the past, which then restores their island in the present. This structure sometimes goes to dark places, since each island is a place that was ultimately doomed in the past, often by their own hubris or inability to come to an understanding. On one level, this time-hopping premise carries echoes of Chrono Trigger. You get to see what's gone wrong in the past and fix it, and then discover how your own intervention has manifested itself in the present. Some of the scenarios even have playful touches, subverting expectations about what you'll find after centuries of the new land's culture left to its own devices. Inversely though, visiting these islands one by one doesn't have the propulsive force of Chrono Trigger. In fact, the majority of the story feels like a short story anthology. The stories of the various islands are singular and standalone, and rarely impact one another. There is an overarching plot about discovering a religious movement called the Roamers, but for the most part, each of the islands stand by themselves. So, each time you visit a new land, you're basically getting a compacted little story that lasts a few hours and then it's off to the next. There's a certain satisfaction in watching the world map fill up with lands that you've helped to restore, but there are just so many of them that the pattern starts to wear thin after a while. And naturally, as with any collection of short stories, some will be stronger than others. I very much enjoyed some of them, but others were dull and overlong. And it's no fun realizing in the first half hour of an episodic story that you really don't care about the remaining couple of hours. Square Enix was frank when it introduced Dragon Quest VII Reimagined that it was keen to trim off all the cruft from the game to respect players' time. And it does accomplish that goal reasonably well. Dragon Quest VII Reimagined gets to the gameplay faster and packs quality of life tools to move it along. The original game took hours to reach your first combat encounter, but that's not the case here, where you're off on an adventure almost immediately. What really creates a glide path though are the multitude of options to make it as friction-free as you'd like. You can set a faster combat speed. I went with the middle choice, faster than the default but slower than the blindingly quick option, and it remains through all subsequent combat encounters. You can also set your character to auto battle with a single button press, and the auto battle is smart enough to mostly handle regular monster encounters without babysitting it. And as you unlock more lands and start needing to go between them, there's a generous fast travel system that lets you hop around easily. More impactful are the various difficulty level toggles. There are 3 presets: easy going, happy medium, and tough going, but you can also change individual factors like damage dealt, monster strength, whether to restore HP after battle, and how much experience, job proficiency, and gold you acquire after each battle. You can even keep monsters from attacking you. Combat itself is relatively simple in a classic JRPG style, with each character able to attack or use a suite of skills related to their current vocation. Skills don't feel overly precious or costly, so I could usually get through an entire dungeon using them consistently without running out of MP. The progression ramp also feels more low-key than I was used to. By the time I finished the game, my character's HP was still in the 400s and 500s, not thousands, and they were dealing similar levels of damage with some of their most powerful skills. It felt more grounded than many other RPGs. At the same time, that also means that battles at the end of your dozens of hours are fundamentally very similar to the ones at the beginning. I even relied largely on many of the same basic elemental spells. The vocation system helps differentiate this somewhat though. There are a total of 20 vocations, along with one specialized base job for each main character. Some tier 2 vocations unlock when you've mastered certain combinations of vocations from tier 1, and a singular and extra powerful tier 3 vocation unlocks after mastering a few tier 2 ones. It's fairly flexible, and each vocation gives you different stat boosts and skills to work with. You'll always want to have a healer around, naturally, and many of the vocations let you stack buffs on your team as well. This system didn't unlock until I was around 12 hours into the game, so it does take a while to start toying with jobs, and then even a little longer to unlock a wrinkle added for the Reimagined release. That wrinkle is the moonlighting system, which seems to be a direct response to the original slow progression. Vocation proficiency points don't scale up at the same rate that experience points do with tougher monsters. So even if you're grinding quite a bit, and with the proficiency boost on, you can only upgrade your vocations at certain slow, steady pace. Moonlighting helps ease this somewhat by essentially letting you equip 2 vocations at once and earn proficiency towards them both. Naturally, it lets you use the skills of both jobs too, so it's easy to make sure that all of your bases are covered with the skills you might need. Each job also has its own little special Let Loose ability. This is a burst skill that activates after you've taken enough damage in combat. With the moonlighting system, you can pick from either job's Let Loose ability, which gives you that much more flexibility when building your team. Dragon Quest VII has some very fun and creative jobs that I loved exploring. The basic jobs like Mage, Priest and Martial Artist are likely what you'd expect for slinging spells or relying on physical offense, and it also has some clever ones like Shepherd, which summons sheep to lend a hand in battle. The tier 2 vocations are where the system really comes into its own. That's where you'd find jobs like Armamentalist, a specialist in elemental magic with high elemental resistance, Paladin, a powerful shield for itself and allies, and my personal favourite, Monster Masher, which summons iconic monsters like Dragon Quest's slimes to attack your enemies. Not everything has been modernized equally though. Changing your vocation requires pressing a shortcut key to call up a special priestess, who then gives you the same spiel each time. After selecting your vocation and confirming, there's a short wait while she recites another piece of repeated dialogue. It's a strange choice for a system that is otherwise very streamlined. Similarly, I found selling equipment to shops so unwieldy and not worthwhile that I eventually stopped even bothering. What really struck me most about Dragon Quest VII Reimagined though was its charm. This is a game that's just overflowing with personality, from the visual presentation to the localization. It was always a delight seeing a new monster for the first time, just to marvel at the level of care and attention put into them. And the visuals helped me connect with the small cast of main characters that I grew to love, like Ruff the Wolf Boy. From start to finish, I never tired of the beautiful visual presentation, and this may just be one of the best RPG localizations I've ever seen. The dialogue between the main heroes is crackling with personality, and the voice acting shows their individuality. Dragon Quest VII Reimagined remains an oddity. It is old-fashioned in many ways, alternatively both comfortingly nostalgic and frustratingly obtuse. It has sanded off some of the notorious rough edges of the original, though its anthology structure still feels like it's needing some more trimming. Despite all that, it shines through with personality and helps to illustrate the qualities that make Dragon Quest feel so different from its less quirky contemporaries.